Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey.
Hey, I'm Mark Clifton. This is Mark Hallock, and we're at Warner Road Baptist Church in Kansas City doing these podcasts live and in person. And the last three podcasts have really, the name of the podcast is Revitalize and Replant.
That's right.
But actually, we should probably change it to the Two Marks podcast. Because the last three podcasts were all about ourselves. So if you care about Mark Hallock and I, listen to the last three. If you don't, skip them and just go on to something else.
It's kind of like, but the three main topics we hit
were, what would my current self say to my 25-year-old self about being a pastor?
About being a pastor.
What would my current self say to my 25-year-old self about being a husband?
Yep.
And what would my current self say to my 25-year-old self about being a dad?
Yeah.
So in essence, in the last three podcasts, we talked about ourselves.
Well, yeah,
which we like to do.
Mistakes we...
That's why we enjoy it so much.
We do hope and pray it's beneficial on some level.
We did.
But
we did. And by the way, if you're listening on the normal podcast way, however you listen to your podcast, you're not seeing this.
That's right.
Because you can't see in your
podcast.
See. But we are videoing this series and put it on the Church Replanters Facebook page and my Facebook page.
That's great.
We are.
We're giving it a shot.
We're giving it a shot, and we'll see. But that's who we are. And so today, though, we're switching gears. We're not going to talk about your life or my life or our thoughts. We're going to talk about how to partner.
That's right.
In revitalization,
which is so important.
Yes, it is important.
In fact, why don't you just give us, why is it important? Why should we partner with other churches?
For example, here at Warnell, when I came here, and there were 18 here on the first Sunday, it pleased the Lord for other churches to join us in doing this work. All right?
Yes.
I think the Lord intends for churches to do things together that they necessarily can't do well on their own. Yeah. I think it glorifies God. In order for us to partner with another church, we had to, at times, submit what we would normally do to some other folks and their, I think, better agendas and stronger leadership. So we had to humble ourselves. I think we also had to learn to value other people and what they could bring to it.
Yeah.
I think the community looks at it and say, hey, instead of being mad at each other and churches separating and splitting, here are some churches that aren't competing. They're actually helping one another.
Yeah, totally.
So, for those reasons,
I love
and
that.
many, many more.
Yep.
And basically, you want a biblical reason? Would you like to have a biblical reason?
Sure, give us a biblical reason.
When the church of Jerusalem, when it was undergoing incredible persecution, Stephen had been killed, others had been killed, and many had scattered across the known world. And the mother church in Jerusalem was no doubt struggling, had to be. They heard about something good happening in Antioch. And they sent one of the best, if not the best they had. Because every time the word Barnabas is mentioned in the scripture, he's a man full of grace and joy and faith. And so he goes to Antioch, and when he gets there, things are going as badly as they are, and as difficult and as challenging as it is in Jerusalem, it's just the opposite in Antioch. It's just flourishing in Antioch. And when he gets there, Barnabas is full of joy.
Yes.
I mean, one thing about partnership, it allows us to be happy when God chooses to work somewhere else.
Amen.
So he's full of joy.
Yes.
And then he encourages them to keep doing what they're doing, even though, and this is so important, what they were doing would have looked a little different than what was happening at the Jewish church in Jerusalem.
Totally.
It wouldn't have been the same.
That's
now,
right.
It's the same gospel, the same Jesus, but he said, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then, number 3, he resourced them. So he realized the world was bigger than Jerusalem. He rejoiced when he saw what God was doing there. By the way, this will preach. Then he resourced them by staying for a year and bringing Paul.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right. Yep.
Well, what happened? Well, there was going to be a famine in Jerusalem. So when the believers in Antioch heard about the famine coming in Jerusalem, they sent relief to the church in Jerusalem by the hands of who? Barnabas and Paul. And so there's this picture in the New Testament that it's all about really partnerships between churches. When Jerusalem had an issue, it was a partner church that they'd helped earlier that God used to meet their needs. So if you're going to be an isolated church and we don't want to help anybody, and we're not, well, then if Jerusalem had said that, they wouldn't have received any help during the famine. But because Jerusalem was willing to help another church and reach out to another church, they received help.
Man, I love it. No, it's so good. No, it's so good.
That'll preach.
That's true. That'll preach.
You listen to this podcast, you got a sermon. Because the fourth R is receive.
Receive. Okay,
so
there it is.
They realized the world was bigger than Jerusalem.
Come on.
They rejoiced when God blessed somewhere else.
Preach.
They resourced that church. Then they received from God what they needed when they needed it.
Come on. I'll do an altar call right now.
We're good.
I'm in.
That's your sermon.
Okay, so that's the foundation.
Yes.
Let's get practical now and say, okay, if that's why,
you get
then
practical.
how should we all get practical?
Tell me. I'm listening.
Let's talk about this.
All
Number
right.
one.
Yes.
Because you might be saying, okay, I'm in. I want to partner. How do we do this? How could our church do this? Number one, you could form a prayer partnership. This is like the most basic level of partnership that I believe every church should be doing. Form a prayer partnership between your congregation and another congregation. It could be a church in your community. It could be a struggling church in your community, a struggling church somewhere else in the country. But to begin with prayer and mobilize your people and say, listen, God answers the prayers of his people. Prayer is powerful.
Okay. We often say on this podcast, if you have more time in announcements on Sunday morning than you do in corporate prayer, you got a major problem. We spend far too little time in most of our worship services in corporate prayer. And here's what I would strongly suggest you consider doing. I think you need to have a time of corporate prayer for confession, a time of corporate prayer for assurance of salvation, a time of corporate prayer for our hearts to hear the gospel. I think when people come to church, they ought to hear people pray. I think, and we ought to have the scripture being read. But also, I think it's important, I would say every Sunday if you care to, but you should have a moment in every service where you pray for somebody else's church other than your own.
I love that, man.
And so what you can do is, a lot of times churches will contact you or me and they'll say, man, we would like to help a dying church. How do we reach them? Because we reach out to them and they kind of feel afraid of us. Well, they think you're going to take them over.
Right.
They think you're just there to take their building or to, and they're hurt, they're frightened. And let's be honest, sometimes when they're in decline, there's even a bit of shame there. Right? There's all of that stuff. You don't normally need to go to a declining church in your community and say, hey, it's like the old thing, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Yeah. It's like, hey, we're from a big church down the street. We're here to, absorb you so you no longer exist. They're not going to really embrace that.
That's right.
But if you have a commitment in your church to pray for other churches on Sunday morning, you absolutely can talk to that pastor or those leaders of that declining church. And you say, look, our church prays for sister churches every Sunday morning. We want to pray for you. Give us 3 or 4 things we can help you. And then on your screen on Sunday morning, put up a picture of that church and that pastor. And then publicly pray for them.
I love it.
And then let that church know, you know what, we prayed for you this Sunday morning. Yeah. And we would really like to see if God could use us to help answer some of those prayers. And besides that, we're going to pray for you every week now for 3 or 4 months. And that's what I mean about a prayer partnership.
I love it, man.
All right?
That's so good. That's so helpful, so practical. Here's a second way, and we have seen this time and again. Proactively, as a church, find either a church plant or maybe an ethnic congregation and invite them to use your building.
Yeah. I think if you want to talk to your associational mission strategist, your associational missions director, your state convention director, and say, look, is there a church plant somewhere in our region that is in a substandard facility that's having a hard time? Or maybe they're renting a non-Southern Baptist church on Sunday nights or Sunday afternoons or something. Invite them to say, we would love to have you share our building.
Yeah.
We would love to have you come and share. Now, sharing your building, all of a sudden it's like having somebody move in your house, right? But it isn't your building anyway.
That's right.
And it's a really good way for people to understand that this thing belongs to Christ and to quit being so possessive about it. But I do agree. That's what we did here at Warnell. We're here at Warnell Road Baptist Church, as I've heard said so many times. We had about 18 or 20 people when I came. The building is huge, right?
Yeah.
3 full stories of education space.
Dude, it is huge. It's
huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do? So the first thing I did, I found out that there was a Laotian congregation meeting in a not a very good place, and they needed a better place to meet, so we invited them to come over. within the first 2 or 3 Sundays I was here, we had a Laotian church sharing the building. Then we started a Haitian congregation, and they were sharing the building. We had a Hispanic church for a while that shared the building. And there was one, and then you guys remember, you may know who Damon Horton is, D.A. Horton. He planted a church, and he needed a place to meet, so they shared our building. There was a series of months here where we actually had 4 churches meeting here at the same hour on Sunday morning because the building's so big. And we created some of our old Sunday school space. We turned into like worship centers for the churches. And here's the cool thing. We put all of the kids into one children's ministry. Because even the kids, they grew up here in the United States. Most of them spoke English, even though maybe their parents didn't. So we had all the kids in one space. And over time,
I love that.
We had at least 9 churches eventually that shared this space with us. And it was a wonder, because all of a sudden the parking lot was filled, the hallways were filled, and we oftentimes, especially with the Haitian congregation, we would have joint worship services every so often, and we would use simultaneous translation with headphones for those Haitians who spoke only Creole. And we would have joint worship services, joint communion services, joint baptism services. It was wonderful.
Okay, so listen, so that obviously, I love that picture, by the way. That's such a blessing to those churches. But how did it impact your people?
Well, we put up a sign, we put up a banner in front of our church and on our door of our church when people, it said, "We share our building and our hearts with," and then we listed all the churches.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, Warner Road Baptist Church, we share our building and our heart with, and we listed the Haitian church, the Damon's church, the Laotian church, whatever.
Yeah.
And how did it affect our people? The biggest issue was the kitchen.
As long as they don't touch the kitchen.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people using that kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's like in an office, whose food is whose.
Yeah, right.
Who got into this? This was for this party. I'm not telling you it was easy.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Right.
And it took a lot of work on my part to keep it at times from coming.
Yeah.
And there were times we could hear them in other parts of the building during the worship service. Their music might be a little louder. And I would sometimes even during my sermon, I would say, "Hey, if you're here for the first time and you're hearing that, you're wondering where that's coming from, I'll tell you where it's coming from. We got 4 churches in here.
I love it.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's so cool.
So you don't apologize for it
right.
at all. Other than the kitchen being sort of an issue where there was a lot of conflict and we just had to find ways to work it out, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And how did it affect our people? Initially, it was a little uncomfortable for them, but truthfully, within 6 or 8 months, they began to really embrace the fact that they had saw so many people here, and all of those churches eventually, when those churches grew enough, they went out on their own. We call this place an incubator for church plants, so you could come here and incubate here and then move out.
I love that. That's so good, man. Here's number 3. Here's a third way that you can partner. Real simple. But you could do a special event of some kind. It could be a worship night, a community outreach event, a retreat, I don't know, with one or more churches in your community.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned one of those, a joint worship service that you would do. Things like this.
Oh, we did that a lot. We would have a joint Thanksgiving service. We would have, we do still something now on December 21st, which is the longest night of the year. Where we work with the county prosecutor, and she invites all the families of murder victims in our city, the victims of murder for this year, we're talking 2024. So she'll invite all of this podcast is past the date now, but as we do this, December 21st is coming right up. And so we work with several churches in our city, and we have a service of remembrance and grieving and hope for the families of homicide victims in our city. And so we pull several churches together to do that. Wow. It's been very meaningful and very impactful to our city, very meaningful to our church, and continues to be. So whether it's a joint service like that, if it's a joint Thanksgiving service, if it's just all kinds of ways you can come together and have some services with other congregations, and a lot of churches don't have Sunday night church anymore. So pick a Sunday evening, and you're going to have a joint meal and maybe some music and just a good time together. And I think you'll find that to be, we just don't connect each other enough.
That's right.
So doing those kinds of things.
And get creative. I mean, like our church, like one of the things we do every year now is we get our men's ministry and a couple of men's ministries from other churches and go up and cut wood for, there's a church up in the mountains, a little church, and that's how they sell wood in the wintertime. And you'd be amazed, the money from that, what it helps to pay the budget for that year.
Yeah.
And so it's a cool thing for dudes to jump in the trucks and go up and cut some wood and hang out and be together.
Be aware, Pastor. Yeah. Look for ways to connect with other churches and ministries.
Yes.
And again, here's the key person to talk to about that is your associational missionary leader. And say, look, our church, how could I connect with some other churches? What are some mission projects they're doing? Are there some churches that we can maybe have some joint worships and joint fellowships with, those kinds of things, and begin that issue of creating an environment where partnerships seem natural and normal, not weird and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we got 2 more. So here's number 4. Well, let's review. Okay, so number 1, a prayer partnership.
Yep.
You could pray. Number 2 is find church plants or ethnic congregations that can use your building.
Right.
Number 3, doing some kind of special event with one or more churches. And then number 4, and this involves a little more sacrifice, but this gets right to, I know, our heart. We share this heart. Is if you're a healthier church, to send 3 or 4 families from your church to intentionally help strengthen and encourage maybe a declining congregation for a period of time.
Okay. Guys, listen, I hope you're listening because this is so important. Every now and then in a podcast, I think we do kind of hit it over the fence. And you might as well just put your glove
Here
down,
we go, baby.
Nobody's catching this one.
Here we go.
This ball, it's going over the center field wall.
Just going so far.
Right here. Here it is.
Here we go.
You guys, and I love you. You guys who call us and email us and text us, hey, we want to help this dying church in our community. How can we do that? I'll tell you how you can do that. Begin now to create a passion among your people to care for dying churches. Create a passion. How do you do that? Hey, by the way, you're preaching, have some conferences, have some training. Offer some classes or some things where you can instruct people on why dying churches matter so much to God, and use. Look, I'm not telling you. Use our book, Reclaiming Glory.
Reclaiming Glory.
And talk about the glory of God's at stake. You create a hunger among some of your people to correct this problem in our community of a dying church. Okay, and then you say, now I'm looking for some people who want to take this to a real different level and actually be missionaries to help that church.
That's right.
And then you get your associational missionary. He can help you, and if he needs my help, or if you need my help, you call me, all right? You replant at nam.net. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
And we'll respond to you. And we'll help your director of missions. We'll help your state convention. But we can help you come up with a way to train and equip some members in your church to go and serve for 2 or 3 years at a dying church. Now, rather than calling that declining church in your town and say, hey, how could we maybe take you over or you become a campus? If you said, listen, we've got 3 families with children that we have prepared and equipped to be missionaries to come and serve alongside you in your church for 2 or 3 years.
And I love that vision of missionary.
Would you be willing to receive them?
Yeah.
They're never going to say no.
That's right.
So those 2 or 3 families go and serve there, and that opens the door for who knows what kind of relationship you might develop with that church later on.
Exactly right.
But are you willing to be selfless enough not to adopt the church and make it your campus, but to do what the church at Antioch did and give some of your very best to go somewhere else?
Come on.
And they're not just going to, listen, guys, they're not just going to do that if you get up on Sunday morning and say, I need 3 families to go down to Little Hope Baptist Church down here that's about to close their doors. They're not going to go.
No, that's right.
So you've got to preach and teach and create an environment. It may take you a year for people to get an understanding of the reason we want to do that. And then say, hey, if you're willing to learn more, if you just want to explore it, I'm not asking you to go. But if you would like, I've got an exploratory meeting we're going to have and a dinner. There's going to be a guy from the association here or a guy from NAM here or a guy from the state convention here. They're going to talk to you about why it's important and see if you can develop. I mean, I'm getting excited thinking about it.
Oh, dude, I love it.
In fact, that ought to be a whole strategy we ought to come up with. Why haven't we done that yet, Kyle?
I know.
I'm looking at Kyle.
I love it, man.
I think rather than just adopting a church from day one, some will do that. Most won't.
Most
I think
can't.
If we create these kinds of environments where we send out missionaries, families, and it's 2 or 3 years. Now, some of them will never go back.
Right.
Because it may become eventually adopted by that church. And some will go back. But just think about how important that would be.
Okay, we've got a new initiative for the team.
We do.
We need to remember this. Okay, here's the last. Not that we don't have enough.
I know.
Here's number 5. The last thing we want to say here is, and you're kind of leaning into it, but ultimately there are those churches that need to be replanted.
Absolutely.
And so if you look at partnership, probably the most sacrificial of all of these, but is so needed, is your church coming alongside a dying church and replanting it as a new congregation, building off the legacy of what God has done into a new future.
And how do you do that? Well, again, I think in all honesty, if you can come to, I know this sounds self-serving, but it's not. If you can come to our Replant Summit in August, our website, churchreplanters.com, we'll put it in the show notes. That Replant Summit in August in Alpharetta would really help you understand this process a lot more.
Yeah.
Also, if you could create an environment in your church where your church feels responsibility for that congregation, even though they're not connected to them yet. Yeah. We have a passion and a heart for that congregation, and we're willing to be patient and loving and caring and adopting that congregation.
Yeah.
Listen, man, adoption's such a beautiful picture. It's such a biblical picture. And I know some of you folks who are listening to me, you are adoptive parents. And some of you adopt infants, and some of you have adopted special needs children. Some of you have adopted children who are adolescents. And you know that adoption brings certain challenges that are unique only to adoptive parents. You need to know that if you're going to adopt a dying church, there are going to be some special challenges.
That's right.
And your church spiritually needs to be prepared for that. And you need to be full of grace and patience and understanding of those people you're adopting into that church. But at the same time, you're going to create a brand new culture, just as you do in your adoptive family, that's going to be beneficial for that child and for that church.
That's right.
And so, guys, we want to help your church understand what it means to adopt another church and how to approach that in a healthy biblical way, or how you might approach it in a very damaging way that might just remove the opportunity before it even starts.
Yeah.
So lean into us, lean into your state convention, your association. Many of them have good equipping on how to do that. But adopting a dying church.
Love it.
You do not have to be big to adopt a dying church.
Yeah, that's right.
You can adopt a dying church when you're 100 people in attendance. You really can. So don't look at it that way. But adopting a dying church.
I love it.
We see over 100 churches every year that would have closed their doors, get adopted by another church, and they actually begin to thrive.
That's right. So guys, partnership. We've talked about 5 ways you can partner, and boy, we encourage you. This is the joy of ministry together. It's the heart of God, and so be praying and thinking about how you can partner.
And those of you who are listening on your regular podcast platforms, thank you for doing that, and please do subscribe. It is important to the work of this podcast. Those of you who want to, you can go to my Facebook page or Church Replanters, and you get to see Mark and I live. I mean, we're not
just
all
what
that,
you want.
We're not all that good to look at, but you get to see the Warnell Road building.
That's right.
And if you like the video, then let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Click and say we would like to see more.
We're trying. We're giving it a shot.
Or if you say, you know what, you guys are a lot better if I don't see you. That would probably, and then be frank about it. Can I be honest about it? We're doing like 12 or 14 of these in one day.
Yeah.
So Mark and I brought a bunch of different clothes. So every
we're getting ready to change right now.
Every couple of podcasts, we're like Taylor Swift. We go change wardrobes. So even though we may have different clothes on in the next video, we're still here.
Yeah, I don't think we're fooling anybody.
No, we haven't shaved or showered or anything. So it's clean clothes on a dirty body. There's a sermon there somewhere, and you'll probably preach it.
Preach it, baby.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.